The hush money payments and subsequent criminal conviction of Donald Trump in 2024 represent one of the most significant legal and political controversies in his career. This case, centered on payments to adult film actress Stormy Daniels to silence her about an alleged 2006 affair, culminated in Trump becoming the first former U.S. president to be criminally convicted. Below, I explore the origins, legal details, political fallout, public reactions, and broader implications of this controversy, providing a comprehensive overview while maintaining factual accuracy and neutrality. Background and origins. The controversy traces back to the 2016 U.S. presidential election, a period marked by intense media scrutiny and polarizing campaign rhetoric. Donald Trump, then a Republican candidate, faced numerous allegations and scandals, including the release of the Access Hollywood tape in October 2016, where he made lewd comments about women. Amid this volatile environment, allegations surfaced about a 2006 encounter between Trump and Stephanie Clifford, known professionally as Stormy Daniels, a prominent adult film actress. Daniels claimed a brief sexual relationship with Trump at a celebrity golf tournament in Lake Tahoe, an allegation Trump has consistently denied. In late 2016, as Trump's campaign gained momentum, Daniels sought to sell her story to media outlets. To prevent its publication, Michael Cohen, Trump's personal attorney and self-described fixer, arranged a $130,000 payment to Daniels in October 2016, just weeks before the election. This payment was part of a non-disclosure agreement, NDA, to ensure Daniels' silence about the alleged affair. The transaction was not publicly disclosed at the time, and Trump's campaign continued without the story gaining significant traction during the critical final weeks. The payment remained largely under the radar until January 2018, when the Wall Street Journal reported that Cohen had made the payment to Daniels. The revelation sparked immediate controversy, raising questions about campaign finance violations, the legality of the payment, and whether it constituted an attempt to influence the 2016 election. The story gained further attention as Daniels, freed from her NDA after Cohen's public statements, began speaking openly about the affair and the payment on platforms like 60 Minutes in March 2018. The payment and its structure, the $130,000 payment, was facilitated through a Delaware-based shell company, Essential Consultants LLC, created by Cohen specifically for this purpose. Cohen initially claimed he made the payment using his own funds, stating it was to protect Trump's personal reputation and not related to the campaign. However, subsequent investigations revealed that Trump reimbursed Cohen for the payment through a series of monthly checks in 2017, totaling $420,000. These reimbursements were disguised as legal fees for services rendered, despite no evidence of such services being provided. The structure of the payment and reimbursement process became central to the legal case. Prosecutors argued that the reimbursements were falsely recorded in the Trump Organization's books as legal expenses, constituting falsification of business records. The payments were made from Trump's personal bank account and the Trump Revocable Trust, with checks signed by Trump himself or his financial officers, including Alan Weisselberg, the Trump Organization's CFO. Legal proceedings. The legal case against Trump was led by Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, who built on investigations initiated by his predecessor, Cyrus Vance Jr. The case focused on 34 felony counts of falsifying business records in the first degree, a charge under New York law that requires proof of intent to commit or conceal another crime. In this case, prosecutors argued that the falsification was intended to conceal violations of campaign finance laws and possibly tax laws, as the payments were designed to influence the 2016 election by suppressing damaging information. Investigation and indictment. The investigation began in earnest after Cohen pleaded guilty in August 2018 to federal charges, including campaign finance violations related to the Daniels payment. Cohen testified that he acted at the direction of and for the benefit of Trump, implicating the then-president in potential criminal activity. The Southern District of New York, SDNY, pursued the case but faced challenges in directly charging Trump while he was in office, citing Department of Justice guidelines against indicting a sitting president. After Trump left office in January 2021, the Manhattan DA's office intensified its probe, focusing on the Trump Organization's financial practices. In April 2023, Bragg's office indicted Trump, marking the first criminal indictment of a former U.S. president. The indictment detailed 34 counts, including 11 counts related to checks issued to Cohen, 11 counts for invoices submitted by Cohen, and 12 counts for ledger entries mischaracterizing the payments as legal fees. Trial and conviction. The trial began in April 2024 in New York State Court, presided over by Judge Juan Merchan. Key witnesses included Michael Cohen, Stormy Daniels, and former Trump aide Hope Hicks. Cohen's testimony was pivotal as he detailed the payment scheme, Trump's knowledge, and the reimbursement process. Daniels provided graphic testimony about the alleged 2006 encounter, which Trump's defense team argued was irrelevant and prejudicial. The prosecution countered that her testimony established the motive for the payment, to avoid public embarrassment during the campaign. The defense, led by attorneys Todd Blanche and Susan Necheles, argued that the payments were personal, not campaign-related, and that Cohen acted independently. They also challenged Cohen's credibility, citing his prior convictions and history of lying under oath. However, prosecutors presented documentary evidence, including checks, invoices, and communications, to corroborate Cohen's account. On May 30, 2024, a jury of 12 New Yorkers found Trump guilty on all 34 counts after 2 days of deliberation. The conviction was a historic moment, as Trump became the first former president convicted of a felony. Sentencing was initially scheduled for July 2024, but Judge Merchan delayed it due to Trump's status as the Republican nominee and subsequent president-elect. Ultimately, no punishment was imposed, a decision that sparked further controversy. Appeals and current status. Trump's legal team immediately announced plans to appeal, arguing that the case was politically motivated and that the charges were novel applications of New York law. They also cited judicial bias, pointing to Merchan's alleged conflicts of interest and rulings limiting defense evidence. As of July 2025, the appeal process is ongoing, with legal experts divided on its likelihood of success. Some argue the documentary evidence is overwhelming, while others see potential for reversal based on the case's legal complexity and political context. Political and public reactions. The hush money case polarized the public and political spheres, reflecting broader divisions in American politics. Supporters' perspective. Trump and his allies framed the case as a politically motivated witch hunt orchestrated by Democratic prosecutors, particularly Bragg, whom they accused of targeting Trump to undermine his 2024 campaign. Trump frequently called the trial election interference, pointing to Bragg's ties to Democratic donors and the Biden administration's broader legal actions against him. Supporters on platforms like X echoed this sentiment, with posts labeling the conviction a sham and comparing it to authoritarian tactics. For example, prominent conservative accounts argued that the case relied on a disgraced witness, Cohen, and lacked direct evidence of Trump's intent to violate campaign finance laws. The conviction did not significantly dent Trump's political support. Polls in 2024 showed that most Republican voters viewed the charges as politically driven, and Trump's campaign raised over $50 million in donations within 24 hours of the verdict. His subsequent victory in the 2024 presidential election underscored the limited electoral impact of the conviction. Critics' critics, including Democratic leaders, legal scholars, and progressive activists, hailed the conviction as a triumph of accountability. They argued that the case demonstrated no one is above the law, emphasizing the evidence of falsified records and the intent to influence the 2016 election. Organizations like Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington (CREW) pointed to the case as part of a pattern of unethical behavior by Trump, citing other controversies like the Trump Organization's tax fraud conviction in 2022. On X, critics celebrated the verdict with hashtags like #JusticeServed, though some expressed frustration that no punishment was imposed. Mainstream media outlets, such as the New York Times and CNN, covered the trial extensively, framing it as a test of the judicial system's ability to hold powerful figures accountable. Broader public sentiment. Public opinion was deeply divided. A 2024 Gallup poll showed 48% of Americans believed the conviction was justified, while 45% viewed it as politically motivated. Independents leaned slightly toward viewing the case as legitimate, but expressed skepticism about its impact given Trump's continued political viability. The lack of punishment further fueled debates, with some arguing it undermined the conviction's significance, while others saw it as a pragmatic decision to avoid escalating political tensions. Broader implications: the hush money case has far-reaching implications for American politics, the legal system, and public trust. Legal precedent: the case set a historic precedent as the first criminal conviction of a former president. It demonstrated that state prosecutors could pursue charges against high-profile figures, even for conduct tied to federal elections. However, the novel application of falsifying business records to conceal campaign finance violations raised questions about legal overreach. Legal scholars like Jonathan Turley argued that the case stretched New York law to fit a political agenda, while others, like Lawrence Tribe, defended it as a straightforward application of existing statutes. The case also highlighted challenges in prosecuting former presidents. The delay in sentencing and lack of punishment underscored the unique considerations in cases involving figures with significant political influence. The ongoing appeal process may further clarify the boundaries of such prosecutions. Political polarization: the conviction deepened America's political divide. For Trump's base, it reinforced narratives of a deep state targeting conservatives, fueling distrust in judicial institutions. For his critics, it validated long-standing allegations of corruption, though some expressed disappointment that the conviction did not derail his political comeback. The case became a rallying point for both sides, with Trump leveraging it to portray himself as a victim of persecution, a strategy that resonated with his supporters. Media and cultural impact: the case dominated media coverage, with outlets like The Atlantic and The Washington Post providing in-depth analyses of its legal and political ramifications. The salacious nature of the allegations, combined with Daniels' public persona, made the case a cultural phenomenon, spawning memes, late-night comedy segments, and heated debates on social media. Daniels herself became a polarizing figure, viewed by some as a whistleblower and by others as an opportunist. Impact on future elections: the case's limited electoral impact. Trump's 2024 victory, despite the conviction, suggests that legal controversies may have diminishing returns in swaying voters in a polarized environment. It also raised questions about the role of prosecutors in high-profile political cases, with some arguing that such actions risk being perceived as partisan, regardless of their legal merits. Trump's response and defense: throughout the investigation, trial, and aftermath, Trump maintained his innocence, denying the affair with Daniels and framing the case as a politically motivated attack. He frequently attacked Bragg, Merchan, and Cohen, calling the latter a disbarred lawyer and liar. Trump's legal team argued that the payments were personal, not campaign-related, and that the prosecution failed to prove intent to violate campaign finance laws. They also challenged the credibility of key witnesses and the fairness of the trial process. After the conviction, Trump's public statements focused on rallying his base, framing the verdict as evidence of a corrupt system. In campaign speeches and ex-posts, he called for supporters to fight back against what he described as a weaponized justice system. His legal team's appeal strategy centers on procedural issues, including alleged judicial bias and the novel legal theory underpinning the charges. Key figures involved Stormy Daniels, the adult film actress whose allegations sparked the controversy. Her testimony provided critical context but was criticized by the defense as inflammatory. Michael Cohen, Trump's former attorney, whose guilty plea and testimony implicated Trump. His credibility was a major point of contention. Alvin Bragg, Manhattan DA who pursued the case, viewed by critics as politically motivated and by supporters as upholding the law. Judge Juan Merchan presided over the trial, facing accusations of bias from Trump's team due to his rulings and alleged political leanings. Alan Weisselberg, Trump Organization CFO, who testified about the reimbursement process but invoked the Fifth Amendment on key questions. Current developments: July 2025. As of July 19, 2025, the case remains active in the appeals process. Trump's legal team has filed motions challenging the conviction, focusing on legal and procedural issues. The lack of punishment has kept the controversy in the public eye, with critics arguing it undermines accountability and supporters claiming it proves the case's weakness. X posts reflect ongoing debates, with some users speculating about the appeal's outcome and others discussing its implications for Trump's second term. Recent developments include Trump's broader legal strategy, which involves leveraging his presidency to influence ongoing cases. For example, his administration's actions in other legal battles, such as pardons related to January 6th, suggest a willingness to use executive power to address legal challenges. The hush money case, while less prominent than newer controversies like Signal Gate, continues to shape perceptions of Trump's legal and ethical conduct. Conclusion: the hush money payments and conviction represent a landmark moment in American political and legal history. The case encapsulates the complexities of prosecuting a figure like Trump, whose polarizing persona and political influence challenge traditional notions of accountability. While the conviction marked a historic legal victory for prosecutors, its limited practical consequences and ongoing appeals highlight the difficulties of resolving such controversies in a divided nation. The case's legacy lies in its reinforcement of political polarization, its test of judicial independence, and its reflection of the enduring debate over Trump's conduct and character. The hush money payments and subsequent criminal conviction of Donald Trump in 2024 form a pivotal case study in American political, legal, and cultural history. This controversy, involving a $130,000 payment to adult film actress Stormy Daniels to suppress allegations of a 2006 affair, led to Trump's historic conviction as the first former U.S. president found guilty of a felony. This educational exploration covers the case's origins, legal intricacies, key players, evidence, political fallout, public reactions, and broader implications, offering a detailed narrative suitable for teaching audiences about law, politics, ethics, and media dynamics. 1. Introduction. Why this case matters. The hush money case is more than a tabloid scandal. It represents a collision of legal accountability, political polarization, and public perception in modern America. For educators and students, it offers lessons in legal systems, how state-level prosecutions interact with federal election laws, and the challenges of prosecuting high-profile figures. Political dynamics. The role of legal controversies in shaping electoral outcomes and public trust. Media influence. How salacious allegations and legal battles are framed in public discourse. Ethics and leadership. Questions about transparency, accountability, and the boundaries of personal and political conduct. In May 2024, Trump was convicted on 34 felony counts of falsifying business records to conceal payments intended to influence the 2016 presidential election. Despite the conviction, he faced no immediate punishment and won the 2024 presidential election, highlighting the case's complex legacy. This analysis aims to unpack these layers, providing a thorough resource for understanding the controversy. 2. Background and context. 2. 1. The 2016 election environment. The 2016 U.S. presidential election was a contentious battle between Republican Donald Trump and Democrat Hillary Clinton, marked by intense media scrutiny and personal scandals. Trump's campaign leaned heavily on his outsider status, business acumen, and provocative rhetoric. However, his personal conduct faced scrutiny, particularly after the October 2016 release of the Access Hollywood tape, where Trump boasted about groping women. This tape amplified concerns about his behavior toward women, making any further allegations potentially damaging. 2. The alleged affair in 2006, Stormy Daniels, born Stephanie Clifford, an adult film actress, claimed she had a brief sexual encounter with Trump at a celebrity golf tournament in Lake Tahoe. Trump, then a private citizen and reality TV star, was married to Melania Trump at the time. Daniels' account, detailed in her 2018 book Full Disclosure and later court testimony, described a consensual but brief interaction. Trump has consistently denied the affair, calling Daniels' claims false and motivated by financial gain. 2. 3. The hush money payment. As Trump's 2016 campaign neared its climax, Daniels sought to sell her story to media outlets, including the National Enquirer. To prevent its publication, Michael Cohen, Trump's personal attorney and fixer, arranged a $130,000 payment to Daniels in October 2016. The payment was part of a non-disclosure agreement, NDA, to ensure her silence. Cohen used a shell company, Essential Consultants LLC, to facilitate the transaction, initially claiming he funded it personally without Trump's knowledge. The payment's timing, just weeks before the election, raised questions about its intent. Prosecutors later argued it was designed to influence voters by suppressing damaging information, constituting an unreported campaign contribution. The story remained quiet until the Wall Street Journal broke the news in January 2018, sparking a cascade of legal and political consequences. 3. The legal case from investigation to conviction. 1. Initial investigations, 2018 to 2021. The hush money payment first drew scrutiny from federal authorities. In August 2018, Michael Cohen pleaded guilty to 8 federal charges, including campaign finance violations related to the Daniels payment and a similar payment to model Karen McDougal. Cohen admitted acting at the direction of Trump to influence the 2016 election, implicating the then-president. The Southern District of New York, SDNY, investigated but did not charge Trump, citing Department of Justice guidelines against indicting a sitting president. Meanwhile, the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, under Cyrus Vance Jr., began probing the Trump Organization's financial practices, including the hush money payments. This investigation expanded to examine potential tax fraud, insurance fraud, and falsification of business records. After Trump left office in January 2021, the DA's office, now led by Alvin Bragg, intensified its focus on the payments. 2. Indictment, April 2023. On April 4, 2023, Trump was indicted by a Manhattan grand jury on 34 felony counts of falsifying business records in the first degree under New York Penal Law Section 175. 10. The charges stemmed from 11 counts, checks issued to Cohen for reimbursement, signed by Trump or Trump Organization officers. 11 counts. Invoices submitted by Cohen, falsely labeled as payments for legal services. 12 counts. Ledger entries in the Trump Organization's books mischaracterizing the payments. The prosecution argued that these falsifications were intended to conceal another crime, violations of campaign finance laws under the Federal Election Campaign Act, FECA, and possibly New York election law, which prohibits conspiring to promote a candidate through unlawful means. The other crime elevated the charges from misdemeanors to felonies. 3. The trial, April-May 2024. The trial, held in New York State Court under Judge Juan Merchan, began on April 15, 2024, and lasted 6 weeks. Key elements included: prosecution's case. Witnesses. Michael Cohen testified about arranging the payment and receiving reimbursements, supported by documents like checks and emails. Stormy Daniels detailed the alleged affair, establishing the motive for the payment. Hope Hicks, a former Trump aide, testified about the campaign's concern over negative publicity post-Access Hollywood. David Pecker, former National Enquirer publisher, described a catch-and-kill scheme to suppress damaging stories about Trump. Evidence. Prosecutors presented checks signed by Trump, invoices, and ledger entries, showing a deliberate effort to disguise the reimbursements as legal fees. A recorded conversation between Trump and Cohen discussing the McDougal payment further corroborated the scheme. Argument. The payments were an illegal campaign contribution, exceeding federal limits and unreported, aimed at influencing the election by hiding damaging information. Defense's case. Witnesses. The defense called few witnesses, relying heavily on cross-examination to discredit Cohen, highlighting his prior convictions for perjury and fraud. They also challenged Daniels' relevance, arguing her testimony was prejudicial. Argument. The payments were personal, not campaign-related, to protect Trump's family and reputation. The defense claimed Cohen acted independently and that the prosecution failed to prove intent to violate campaign finance laws. Judicial dynamics. Judge Merchan faced scrutiny from Trump's team, who alleged bias due to his rulings limiting defense evidence and his daughter's Democratic affiliations. Merchan maintained strict courtroom decorum, fining Trump for violating a gag order. On May 30th, 2024, after 2 days of deliberation, the jury convicted Trump on all 34 counts, finding that he intentionally falsified records to conceal the payment's purpose. 3. 4. Sentencing and appeals. Sentencing was initially set for July 2024, but delayed due to Trump's status as the Republican nominee. In a controversial decision, Judge Merchan imposed no punishment, citing the unique circumstances of Trump's impending return to the presidency. Trump's legal team filed an appeal, arguing the prosecution's legal theory, combining state falsification charges with federal campaign violations, was unprecedented. Merchan's rulings, including evidentiary decisions, were biased. The case was politically motivated, violating Trump's due process rights. As of July 2025, the appeal is pending in New York's appellate courts, with legal experts divided on its outcome. Some, like former prosecutor Preet Bharara, argue the documentary evidence is airtight, while others, like Alan Dershowitz, see potential for reversal due to the case's legal novelty. 4. Key figures and their roles. Donald Trump, the central figure accused of orchestrating the payment scheme. He denied the affair and claimed the case was a witch hunt to sabotage his political career. Stormy Daniels, the whistleblower whose allegations triggered the controversy. Her testimony was critical but polarizing, with critics accusing her of seeking fame. Michael Cohen, Trump's former attorney, whose guilty plea and testimony implicated Trump. His credibility was a focal point, given his legal troubles. Alvin Bragg, Manhattan DA who pursued the case, viewed as a hero by critics of Trump and a partisan actor by supporters. Judge Juan Merchan presided over the trial, balancing complex legal issues with public scrutiny. His decisions fueled debates about judicial impartiality. Alan Weisselberg, Trump Organization CFO, who facilitated reimbursements but invoked the Fifth Amendment, limiting his testimony. 5. Evidence and legal arguments. The prosecution's case rested on a robust paper trail. Checks, signed by Trump or his sons, totaling $420,000 to Cohen, including $130,000 for Daniels, plus taxes and a bonus. Invoices, submitted by Cohen, falsely labeled as legal fees. Ledger entries, Trump Organization records mischaracterizing the payments. Communications, emails and a recorded conversation showing Trump's awareness of the scheme. The prosecution argued that the falsifications concealed violations of Federal Election Campaign Act. The $130,000 payment exceeded the $2,700 individual contribution limit and was unreported. New York Election Law Section 17-152, prohibiting conspiracies to promote a candidate by unlawful means. The defense countered that the payments were personal, protecting Trump's family, not the campaign. Cohen's testimony was unreliable due to his criminal history. The prosecution's legal theory improperly mixed state and federal laws. 6. Political and social implications. 6. 1. Political polarization. The case deepened America's partisan divide. Trump supporters, amplified on X, viewed the conviction as evidence of a weaponized justice system, with hashtags like #WitchHunt trending. A 2024 Rasmussen poll showed 60% of Republicans believed the case was politically motivated. Conversely, Democrats and independents, 48% per Gallup, saw it as a victory for accountability, though some questioned its electoral impact given Trump's 2024 win. 6. 2. Legal precedent. The conviction set a historic precedent, demonstrating that former presidents can face criminal accountability. However, the lack of punishment and ongoing appeals raised questions about the justice system's ability to enforce consequences against powerful figures. The case's reliance on a novel legal theory sparked debates about prosecutorial overreach versus innovative application of law. 6. 3. Media and cultural impact. The case was a media spectacle, blending legal drama with tabloid intrigue. Outlets like the New York Times and CNN provided detailed coverage, while late-night shows and social media capitalized on its salacious elements. Daniels became a cultural figure, appearing in interviews and documentaries, though her motives were debated. The case highlighted the media's role in shaping public perception of legal controversies. 6. 4. Electoral consequences. Despite the conviction, Trump's 2024 victory showed that legal troubles did not significantly erode his base's support. His campaign raised $52 million in donations post-verdict, per Politico, underscoring his ability to frame legal battles as persecution. This resilience suggests that in a polarized electorate, legal controversies may have limited impact on loyal voters. 7. Public reactions and sentiment. Public reactions mirrored partisan lines. Supporters, on X, users like @RealPatriots1776 called the trial a sham and praised Trump's defiance. Conservative media, like Fox News, emphasized Cohen's lack of credibility. Critics, progressive accounts, such as Justice Now 2024, celebrated the verdict as long overdue. Mainstream outlets framed it as a test of the rule of law. Independents. Polls showed mixed views, with many seeing the case as legitimate but questioning its broader significance given the lack of punishment. 8. Educational lessons and broader significance. For teaching purposes, the hush money case offers rich material. Legal studies illustrates the intersection of state and federal law, the role of intent in criminal prosecutions, and challenges in high-profile cases. Political science highlights how legal controversies shape campaigns, voter behavior, and institutional trust. Ethics raises questions about transparency, accountability, and the ethics of using NDAs to influence elections. Media literacy demonstrates how media framing and social media amplify or distort public understanding. The case's legacy lies in its exposure of systemic tensions between accountability and political influence, legal innovation and overreach, and public trust and polarization. 9. Current status, July 2025. As of July 19, 2025, the appeal process continues, with Trump's team challenging the conviction's legal basis. The lack of punishment has kept the case in public discourse, with ex-posts debating its implications for Trump's second term. Recent actions, like Trump's pardons in other cases, suggest he may use executive power to address legal challenges, though the hush money case remains under state jurisdiction. 10. Conclusion. The hush money case is a defining moment in Trump's controversial career, blending legal, political, and cultural elements. It underscores the challenges of holding powerful figures accountable in a polarized society and the enduring impact of legal battles on public perception. For educators, it provides a multifaceted case study to explore law, politics, and ethics, offering lessons that resonate beyond the courtroom. This expanded analysis builds on the previous overview of the hush money case, where Donald Trump was convicted in May 2024 on 34 felony counts of falsifying business records to conceal a $130,000 payment to adult film actress Stormy Daniels. The payment, made in 2016 to silence allegations of a 2006 affair, became a historic legal battle, marking Trump as the first former U.S. president criminally convicted. Below, I provide a deeper exploration tailored for educational purposes, offering students, educators, and researchers a comprehensive resource to understand the case's legal, political, and cultural significance. 1. In-depth legal analysis. 1. Legal framework and charges. The core of the case rested on New York Penal Law Section 175.10, which defines falsifying business records in the first degree as a felony when done with intent to commit or conceal another crime. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office, led by Alvin Bragg, charged Trump with 34 counts, broken down as 11 counts. Checks issued to Michael Cohen, Trump's former attorney, for reimbursing the $130,000 payment to Daniels, plus taxes and a bonus, totaling $420,000. 11 counts. Invoices submitted by Cohen, falsely labeled as payments for legal services. 12 counts. Trump Organization ledger entries mischaracterizing the reimbursements. The other crime elevating the charges to felonies was argued to be a violation of Federal Election Campaign Act, FECA. The payment was an unreported campaign contribution exceeding the $2,700 individual limit, intended to influence the 2016 election. New York Election Law Section 17-152, prohibiting conspiracies to promote a candidate through unlawful means. This legal theory was novel, as it combined state business record laws with federal campaign finance violations, prompting debate among legal scholars. Critics, like Jonathan Turley, argued it stretched legal boundaries, potentially setting a precedent for overreach. Supporters, like Lawrence Tribe, countered that the charges were grounded in clear evidence of intent to deceive voters. 1. 2. Trial dynamics. The trial, held from April 15 to May 30, 2024, in Manhattan's New York State Supreme Court, was a high-stakes legal drama. Judge Juan Merchan oversaw proceedings, navigating intense public scrutiny and Trump's vocal criticisms. Key trial elements included prosecution strategy. Prosecutors, led by Assistant DA Joshua Steinglass, built a meticulous case around documentary evidence and witness testimony. They argued that Trump's reimbursements to Cohen, disguised as legal fees, were a deliberate scheme to hide the payment's electoral purpose. The prosecution emphasized the timing, October 2016, post-Access Hollywood tape, when negative publicity could have derailed Trump's campaign. Defense strategy. Trump's attorneys, Todd Blanche and Susan Necheles, focused on discrediting Cohen, portraying him as a vengeful, untrustworthy witness with a history of perjury. They argued the payments were personal, aimed at protecting Trump's family, not the campaign, and challenged the prosecution's reliance on federal law in a state case. Judicial challenges. Merchan imposed a gag order to prevent Trump from attacking witnesses or jurors, which Trump violated multiple times, incurring $10,000 in fines. The defense accused Merchan of bias, citing his daughter's Democratic affiliations and rulings limiting their ability to present certain evidence, such as campaign finance expert testimony. The jury, composed of 12 New Yorkers, deliberated for 2 days, reviewing evidence like checks signed by Trump and a recorded 2016 conversation between Trump and Cohen discussing a similar payment to Karen McDougal. The unanimous guilty verdict on May 30, 2024, was a landmark moment, though the lack of punishment sparked further debate. 1. 3. Appeals process. Trump's legal team filed an appeal in June 2024, focusing on legal novelty. The combination of state and federal laws was untested, potentially exceeding prosecutorial authority. Judicial bias. Allegations that Merchan's rulings favored the prosecution. Evidentiary issues. Claims that Daniels' testimony about the alleged affair was irrelevant and prejudicial. As of July 19, 2025, the appeal is pending in New York's appellate division. Legal analysts predict a mixed outcome. The documentary evidence is robust, but the novel legal theory could invite scrutiny. The case's resolution may influence future prosecutions of political figures. 2. Comprehensive evidence analysis. The prosecution's case was anchored by a robust paper trail and witness testimony, which I detail below to provide a teaching resource for understanding evidentiary standards in high-profile cases. 2. 1. Documentary evidence checks. 9 of the 11 checks to Cohen were signed by Trump personally, drawn from his personal account or the Trump Revocable Trust. 2 were signed by Trump Organization officers, including CFO Alan Weisselberg. These checks, totaling $420,000, included the $130,000 Daniels payment, taxes, and a bonus for Cohen. Invoices. Cohen submitted 11 invoices through Essential Consultants LLC, falsely labeled as payments for legal services under a non-existent retainer agreement. These were entered into the Trump Organization's records as legitimate expenses. Ledger entries. The Trump Organization's accounting system recorded the payments as legal fees, with 12 counts tied to these entries. Prosecutors argued this mischaracterization was intentional to conceal the payment's true purpose. Communications. A 2016 recorded conversation between Trump and Cohen, obtained by the FBI, discussed a catch-and-kill payment to Karen McDougal, reinforcing Trump's awareness of such schemes. Emails and text messages between Cohen and Trump Organization staff further corroborated the reimbursement process. 2. Witness testimony. Michael Cohen. The star witness, Cohen detailed arranging the Daniels payment at Trump's direction, using a home equity line of credit to fund it. He testified about monthly reimbursements, supported by invoices and checks. The defense attacked his credibility, citing his 2018 guilty plea for lying to Congress and tax evasion. Stormy Daniels. Her testimony about the 2006 encounter provided context for the payment's motive: to avoid campaign damage. She described Trump's behavior and their interactions, which the defense argued was irrelevant and inflammatory. Her cross-examination was contentious, with Trump's team attempting to portray her as an opportunist. David Pecker, the former National Enquirer publisher, testified about a catch-and-kill strategy to suppress negative Trump stories, including McDougal's. His account established a pattern of silencing damaging allegations. Hope Hicks, Trump's former communications aide, testified about the campaign's panic after the Access Hollywood tape, underscoring the need to suppress further scandals like Daniels' story. Alan Weisselberg, the Trump Organization CFO, invoked the Fifth Amendment, limiting his testimony, but his role in approving payments was documented. 2. 3. Evidentiary challenges. The defense argued that the documents did not explicitly prove Trump's intent to violate campaign finance laws, and Cohen's testimony was tainted by his criminal history. However, the prosecution's combination of documents and corroborating witnesses overcame these challenges, convincing the jury of a deliberate scheme. 3. Socio-political context and comparisons. 3. 1. Polarization and trust in institutions. The hush money case unfolded against a backdrop of deep political polarization. Trump supporters viewed it as part of a broader effort to undermine him, citing other legal battles like the Russia investigation and January 6 probes. A 2024 Pew Research poll showed 62% of Republicans believed the justice system was being weaponized against conservatives, while 55% of Democrats saw the case as a legitimate accountability measure. This divide mirrors other Trump controversies. Russia investigation, 2016 to 2019 allegations of campaign collusion with Russia fueled similar witch hunt narratives. January 6 impeachment, 2021, the Capitol riot case highlighted debates over Trump's responsibility for inciting violence. Classified documents case, 2023, dismissed in 2024, it raised parallel questions about political motivations in prosecutions. The hush money case's unique aspect was its focus on personal conduct, blending tabloid scandal with legal consequences, which amplified its cultural resonance. 3. 2. Gender and power dynamics. The case highlighted issues of gender and power, as Daniels' allegations and the Access Hollywood tape context raised questions about Trump's behavior toward women. Feminist scholars, like those cited in The Atlantic, argued the case exposed a pattern of entitlement, with NDAs used to silence women. Conversely, Trump's defenders framed Daniels as exploiting her story for fame, reflecting broader debates about credibility and victimhood in the #MeToo era. 3. Campaign finance and electoral integrity. The case underscored vulnerabilities in campaign finance laws. The Federal Election Commission, FEC, fined the Trump campaign in 2021 for related violations, but critics argued the system's loopholes allowed unreported contributions to influence elections. This sparked discussions about reforming FECA to address catch-and-kill schemes and dark money. 4. Media and cultural impact. 4. 1. Mainstream media coverage. The case was a media firestorm, with outlets like the New York Times, CNN, and the Washington Post providing detailed trial coverage. Articles analyzed legal arguments, witness credibility, and political implications, often framing the case as a test of judicial impartiality. Conservative outlets, like Fox News and Newsmax, emphasized alleged prosecutorial bias and Cohen's unreliability, aligning with Trump's narrative. 4. 2. Social media and X sentiment. On X, the case generated intense debate. Supporters used hashtags like #TrumpPersecuted to decry the trial, with posts like @MAGAVoice2024 claiming, "Bragg's a Biden pawn. This is election rigging." Critics countered with #JusticeForAll, celebrating the verdict as accountability. A 2024 X analysis showed 60% of case-related posts were polarized, with 35% supporting Trump and 25% backing the prosecution. Neutral posts often questioned the case's impact given Trump's 2024 win. 4. 3. Cultural resonance. The case's salacious elements, Daniels' testimony, the affair allegations, made it a cultural phenomenon. Late-night hosts like Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel mocked Trump's predicament, while memes on X and TikTok lampooned both Trump and Daniels. Daniels' 2018 60 Minutes interview and her book Full Disclosure cemented her as a polarizing figure, viewed as a truth-teller by some and a profiteer by others. 5. Educational frameworks and teaching strategies for educators. The case offers a versatile case study. Below are teaching strategies and discussion prompts for various audiences. 5. 1. High school, grades 9 to 12. Objective: introduce concepts of law, ethics, and media literacy. Activities: mock trial. Students role-play prosecutors, defense attorneys, and jurors, analyzing key evidence like checks and testimony. Debate: should personal conduct affect a politician's career? Divide students into pro and con teams. Media analysis: compare a Fox News and CNN article on the verdict to identify bias. Discussion questions: why was the payment considered a campaign contribution? How did social media shape public views of the case? What does the case reveal about trust in the justice system? 5. 2. College/university objective: explore legal complexities, political polarization, and ethical dilemmas. Activities: case study analysis. Assign students to read the indictment and summarize the legal theory. Research paper: compare the hush money case to other Trump legal battles, e.g., January 6th, classified documents. Panel discussion: invite students to discuss the case's impact on electoral integrity. Discussion questions: was the prosecution's use of FICA in a state case justified? How did the case influence public trust in institutions? What ethical questions arise from using NDAs in politics? 5. 3. General public/adult education objective: foster critical thinking about law, politics, and media. Activities: community forum. Host a discussion on whether legal accountability applies equally to all citizens. Media literacy workshop. Analyze X posts to distinguish fact from opinion. Discussion questions: how did the case reflect broader political divisions? What role did media framing play in public perception? 6. Current developments and future implications. July 2025. As of July 19, 2025, the appeal process continues, with Trump's team arguing for reversal based on legal and procedural grounds. The lack of punishment has fueled debates, with X posts like @LegalEagle 2025 speculating that a successful appeal could weaken state prosecutions of federal crimes. Trump's second term has shifted focus to newer controversies like Signalgate, but the hush money case remains a reference point for critics and supporters. Future implications include legal precedent. The case may shape how state prosecutors address campaign-related crimes. Political strategy. Trump's ability to leverage legal battles for sympathy could influence future candidates. Public trust. Ongoing polarization may further erode faith in judicial and electoral systems. 7. Conclusion: the hush money case is a multifaceted saga that illuminates the intersections of law, politics, and culture. For educators, it offers a rich opportunity to explore accountability, polarization, and media dynamics. The case's legacy, marked by a historic conviction, no punishment, and Trump's 2024 victory, underscores the challenges of navigating justice in a divided society. By studying this controversy, students and researchers can better understand the complexities of modern governance and public discourse. Subscribe channel for more updates.